The island felt like a dream shaped into reality, a place where creatures from another age walked behind glass, metal, and surveillance systems that gave visitors a sense of safety. Jurassic World had been open long enough that families saved money for years just to spend a single day there. Claire Deering moved through the control center early in the morning, watching the live feeds of the crowds pouring in. Every screen showed numbers, schedules, animal stats, and staff assignments. She kept her composure like she always did, even when the park owner pushed for bigger attractions and more genetic experiments. Somewhere on the island, her nephews Zach and Gray were already wandering through the rides. She had promised their mother she would spend time with them, but the pressure of running the park kept her glued to screens and meetings. Zach and Gray, meanwhile, were busy exploring. Gray soaked in every detail, reading every sign and rattling off facts about each dinosaur they saw. Zach pretended he wasn't impressed, but every now and then his eyes betrayed him. They rode the gyrosphere, moved past herds of gentle giants, and watched trainers feed the aquatic reptiles. Everything looked perfect on the surface. Hidden behind the scenes, though, the park was preparing for a new creature unlike anything that had lived before. In a high-security paddock stood the Indominus Rex, a genetically engineered attraction designed to outdo every previous dinosaur. Only a handful of people knew exactly what was inside its DNA. Owen Grady worked miles away from the main plaza, training a pack of velociraptors that responded to him better than they responded to anyone else. He believed they weren't pets, but thinking animals with instincts and intelligence. Blue, the raptor he trusted most, followed his cues with a loyalty that felt fragile but real. Owen's approach clashed with the park's corporate mindset, and he wasn't shy about pointing out when something felt wrong. Zach and Gray worked quickly inside the old visitor center, brushing dust off an abandoned Jeep that had been sitting there since the first park closed decades earlier. Gray found a box of old tools and handed them to Zach as they tried to bring the engine back to life. The forest outside stayed strangely quiet, as if the entire jungle was holding its breath. After a few attempts, the engine finally roared, startling a flock of birds hiding in the rafters. The boys laughed with relief, climbed in, and drove the Jeep onto an old maintenance trail. They hoped it would lead them back toward the main attractions, unaware that the Indominus had crossed the same stretch of land minutes before. Claire returned to the control center, stressed and moving faster than anyone around her. The room buzzed with alarms and scrambled radio calls. Security teams shouted updates, each message confirming that containment had failed. She tried calling her nephews again, but the call dropped as the network overloaded. Owen stood beside her, pushing the staff to close off the north sector before more people wandered into danger. They clashed again, not because they disagreed on what needed to be done, but because the situation forced them to choose between strict procedures and immediate action. Masrani, refusing to accept failure, climbed into the helicopter with his private security team. He wanted to track the Indominus himself. From the air, they spotted it moving through the trees, pushing them aside like tall grass. When they fired at it, the creature ran straight toward the aviary, ramming the glass and slipping inside. The impact cracked the dome. A second strike shattered it completely. Dozens of pterosaurs burst out, screaming and swarming into the sky. The helicopter spun out of control as the flying reptiles attacked the windows and rotors. Masrani fought to steady it, but the damage spread too quickly. The helicopter plunged into the forest and exploded in a burst of fire. The lab felt unusually quiet when Claire, Owen, Zach, and Gray stepped inside. The lights buzzed overhead, and a few overturned carts hinted that people had left in a rush. Claire called out for any staff nearby, but no one answered. When they pushed deeper into the facility, they found Hoskins giving orders to a small group of scientists who looked nervous and confused. He was already talking about new prototypes, insisting that the Indominus had proven the potential of weaponized dinosaurs. He spoke as if the disaster unfolding outside was nothing more than a business opportunity. Owen confronted him, furious that he would even think about continuing the program. Hoskins tried to justify his plans by reminding Owen that the Raptors had already shown combat potential. Before he could finish, a shadow moved behind him. A raptor had slipped through the broken entrance. Hoskins froze for a second, realizing too late that the creatures he wanted to control were beyond anyone's command now. The raptor struck, ending the argument and sending the remaining scientists scrambling for cover. Owen pulled the group out of the lab, urging them to stay close. The island had turned into hostile ground, and even the creatures Owen had raised no longer recognized him as a leader. They ran through the service corridors until they burst out into the open air. Night had settled across the park, and fires from overturned vehicles lit the sky. The air carried distant roars and frantic screams. The raptors were hunting again, moving through the park with restless energy. Owen watched Blue appear from the brush, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. She didn't attack, but she didn't stand down either. It was as if she was fighting the instinct the Indominus had awakened in her. Before anything could shift, a loud roar cut across the clearing. The Indominus stepped out from the trees, its massive body reflecting the flicker of nearby flames. The hybrid called out to the raptors again. Owen and Claire rushed back toward the main park grounds, trying to figure out how to stop the Indominus before it reaches the last large group of survivors. The animal is fewer than a few hundred meters from the central visitor hub, and every step it takes leaves more panic behind. Claire tries calling the control room again, but the connection is down. Owen keeps scanning the jungle, listening for the animal's movements. At this point, they both understand that fighting the Indominus with small weapons won't work. It's stronger than anything they've ever seen. They meet up with Lowry by radio, who explains that security teams have lost track of the creature again. The velociraptors are loose, the ACU is down, and the park is beyond any orderly rescue. Owen, knowing the raptors better than anyone, says they still might be the only hope. If the raptors can recognize him as their alpha, they can be turned against the Indominus. Claire is unsure, but she trusts him. They head toward the last place the raptors were seen. When they regroup with the remaining handlers, Owen steps forward slowly and calls to the raptors. Blue appears first, emerging from the shadows, sniffing the air and tilting her head at him. The other raptors line up behind her. For a moment, it seems like they fully accept him again. Owen reaches out his hand, steady and calm. But when the Indominus arrives, everything changes. The massive hybrid lets out a long, guttural call. It communicates with the raptors, revealing itself partly made from raptor DNA. Suddenly, the raptors shift their attention. One by one, they turn on Owen and the humans. The realization hits him hard. The Indominus has taken command. A full chase begins through the forest as gunfire and snarls echo through the trees. One raptor is lost in the gunfight, another is injured, and by the time the group reaches an open clearing, everything is falling apart. Claire and Owen barely escape with their lives. The remaining raptors